What if you tried to kill a man 4 times in one night and he kept getting back up? This is not fiction. This is not legend. This is a documented historical event with witness testimonies, an official autopsy report, and a crime scene that investigators struggled to explain for over a century. This is the death and the impossible survival of Grigory Rasputin. And by the end of this story, you will understand why the Russian Empire was never the same after that night. The man who should not have existed. Grigory Yefimovich Rasputin was born in 1869 in a tiny Siberian village called Pokrovsky. He was a peasant. He had almost no formal education. He drank heavily. He lived wildly. By every measure of Russian society at the time, a man like Rasputin should have lived and died in complete obscurity. Unknown, unremarkable, forgotten within a generation. Instead, he became the most feared and most talked about man in all of Russia. The turning point came when Rasputin experienced what he described as a religious awakening. He began traveling to monasteries. He developed a reputation as a strannik, a wandering holy man. People who met him described an overwhelming, almost physical sensation in his presence. His eyes, in particular, were described by nearly every person who encountered him as unlike anything they had ever seen. Pale blue, penetrating, impossible to look away from. Word of a miraculous healer from Siberia eventually reached the one place that would change everything, the imperial palace of Tsar Nicholas II. The Tsarevich and the miracle. Tsar Nicholas II and his wife Alexandra had a son. His name was Alexei. He was heir to the Russian throne. And he was dying. Alexei suffered from hemophilia. At the time, this was a death sentence. The slightest injury could cause internal bleeding that could not be stopped. The boy had nearly died multiple times. Doctors were helpless. Alexandra was desperate. In 1905, Rasputin was brought before the imperial family. What happened next has never been scientifically explained. Alexei's bleeding episodes, which had been worsening and which doctors had given up trying to control, stopped when Rasputin was present. Multiple documented episodes, multiple witnesses. Each time the boy was near death, Rasputin would sit beside him, speak to him softly, and the bleeding would slow, then stop. Was it hypnosis? Was it the reduction of stress hormones that affected the boy's clotting? Was it something else entirely? No one has ever agreed on an answer. What is certain is this: Alexandra became completely devoted to Rasputin. In her mind, this man from Siberia was the only force standing between her son and death. She would protect him from anyone. And that protection, given to the most controversial man in Russia, would eventually help bring down an empire. The enemy of everyone. By 1910, Rasputin had enemies everywhere. The Russian Orthodox Church viewed him as a fraud and a heretic. Russian nobles were horrified by his influence over the Tsarina. Political figures believed he was destabilizing the empire. Newspapers ran stories, some true, some wildly exaggerated, about his behavior, his women, his drinking, his supposed orgies. The name Rasputin in Russian essentially means the debauched one. And yet, he remained untouchable. Because Alexandra would hear nothing against him. Because Nicholas, who was weaker-willed than his wife, could not bring himself to act against a man his wife believed had saved their son's life. When World War I began and Nicholas went to the front, Alexandra effectively ran the government at home. And her most trusted advisor, The man she consulted on political appointments, on military strategy, on matters of state, was Rasputin. A Siberian peasant with no education was influencing the decisions of the Russian Empire during the most devastating war in human history. The aristocracy had reached their limit. If you want to keep uncovering the darkest and most extraordinary moments in human history, subscribe right now. Every week, we find what the textbooks buried. The night they tried to kill him. December 16th, 1916, Petrograd, Russia. Prince Felix Yusupov was one of the wealthiest men in Russia. He was young, charming, and utterly convinced that Rasputin was destroying the empire. He assembled a small group of conspirators, including a member of the imperial family, Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich. Their plan was simple: invite Rasputin to Yusupov's palace, kill him, save Russia. Yusupov had spent weeks earning Rasputin's trust. He told Rasputin that his wife, the beautiful Princess Irina, wished to meet him privately. For a man of Rasputin's reputation, the invitation was impossible to refuse. Rasputin arrived at the Yusupov palace shortly after midnight. He was taken to a basement dining room. On the table were cakes and wine, all laced with potassium cyanide. Enough poison, according to the conspirators' own account, to kill several men. Rasputin ate. He drank. He asked for more wine. He did not die. For 2 hours, Yusupov watched in mounting horror as Rasputin sat, ate, drank, and showed no signs whatsoever of poisoning. Yusupov went upstairs to consult with the others. They were all panicking. The poison had been provided by a doctor. It should have worked instantly. Yusupov went back downstairs. He drew a revolver and shot Rasputin in the back. Rasputin collapsed. Yusupov checked for a pulse. Nothing. He went upstairs again to report success. Then one of the conspirators came downstairs to view the body. Rasputin opened his eyes. He rose from the floor. He grabbed Yusupov by the shoulders. He was foaming at the mouth. He was growling. According to Yusupov's own written account, Rasputin whispered in his face, "Felix, Felix, Felix." Then he released him and ran. The courtyard. Rasputin burst through a locked door. Accounts conflict on whether it was locked or simply closed, and made it into the courtyard outside, staggering toward the gate. Another conspirator, Vladimir Purishkevich, ran after him and fired 4 shots. 2 missed, 2 hit. Rasputin fell in the snow. The conspirators gathered around him. They beat him. They wrapped his body in a curtain. They drove to the Petrovsky Bridge over the frozen Neva River and threw him in. It was done. Finally. Irrevocably. Except, when investigators recovered the body 3 days later beneath the ice, the official autopsy, conducted by Professor Dmitry Kosarotov, recorded something that has been debated by historians and forensic experts ever since. Water was found in the lungs. Rasputin had been breathing when he entered the river. After the poison, after the gunshots, after the beating, he had drowned. What his death unleashed. Now here is what history rarely connects directly enough. Rasputin died on December 16th, 1916. The Russian Revolution began in February 1917, just 2 months later. Tsar Nicholas II was forced to abdicate in March. The 300-year Romanov dynasty, the family Rasputin had served, was finished. By July 1918, Nicholas, Alexandra, and all 5 of their children, including young Alexei, the boy Rasputin had seemingly healed, were executed by Bolshevik forces in a basement in Yekaterinburg. Rasputin had reportedly told Alexandra more than once, if he were ever killed by members of the Russian nobility, The entire imperial family would be destroyed within 2 years. He was killed by Russian nobles on December 16th, 1916. The imperial family was dead by July 1918. 18 months. Closing. So ask yourself this. The same question historians, scientists, and forensic experts have asked for over 100 years. How does a man survive cyanide poisoning? How does he survive a gunshot wound to the back? How does he rise from the floor after being declared dead? How does he run, struggle, absorb 2 more bullets, survive a beating, and still be found breathing in a frozen river? Some say the poison was too diluted. Some say the gunshots missed vital organs by centimeters. Some say the forensic evidence has been misread. And some say that Grigory Rasputin was exactly what he claimed to be, something that existed outside the ordinary boundaries of human life. We may never know the full truth, but here is what we do know. The men who killed Rasputin believed they were saving Russia. Within 2 years, Russia as they knew it, the aristocracy, the empire, the dynasty, the entire world they were trying to protect was gone forever. Rasputin died, and Russia died with him. Was that coincidence? Or did the most impossible man in history take an entire empire down with him when he finally went into the dark?